Right now, you're probably lying somewhere comfortable, maybe with a warm blanket pulled up to your chin. Your room is safe. Your world is predictable. But what if I told you that just beyond your comfortable reality, there are creatures so bizarre, so disturbing, that they seem designed not just to survive, but to horrify? These creatures would put the monsters from your nightmares to shame. They're real, they're breathing, they're hunting, and they're so much worse than anything your imagination could conjure. Picture this. You're walking through a forest and you notice something strange about a snail crawling across the path. Its eye stalks are swollen, pulsing with bright green and yellow bands that seem to dance like tiny disco lights. You lean closer, fascinated by this beautiful display, when suddenly you realize something terrible. Those aren't eyes anymore. Something else is controlling them. Something that's been living inside that snail's body, manipulating its every move, turning it into a living puppet. This isn't your typical science video. It's designed to help you unwind, to let your mind drift, and yes, maybe even to fall asleep. But your brain doesn't stop working just because your body is ready for rest. While you're settling in, relaxing, letting go of the day, you'll be absorbing something remarkable. You'll experience what it feels like to truly understand a piece of our universe. So settle in, get comfortable, and let your curiosity carry you wherever tonight's journey leads. What makes a creature cursed? It's not supernatural, but something far more unsettling. These are animals that evolution has twisted into forms so grotesque, behaviors so cruel, that they feel like punishment. They don't just defy our understanding of nature, they mock it. Evolution doesn't care about beauty, it doesn't care about kindness, it only cares about one thing: survival. And sometimes the most effective way to survive is to become something that would make even the most creative horror writer put down their pen in defeat. Tonight, we're going to meet 6 of these creatures. Some live in the deepest parts of our oceans where sunlight has never touched. Others might be crawling through the forest just outside your window. One might even be living inside another creature's mouth right now, pretending to be something it's not. And they exist in our world, sharing the same planet where you sleep peacefully each night. We'll journey through land, sea, and even under your skin. We'll explore what happens when evolution decides that the most effective solution is also the most nightmarish. And by the end, you might find yourself looking at nature with completely different eyes. Imagine you're a fish. You're swimming through the warm coastal waters off the coast of California, maybe near Mexico. The water is crystal clear and you can see everything around you. Schools of smaller fish dart past like silver confetti. The ocean feels safe, familiar, like home. Now imagine opening your mouth to feed and something is wrong. There's a weight in your mouth that shouldn't be there. You try to move your tongue, but it doesn't feel like your tongue anymore. It's smaller, harder, with tiny claws that grip the bottom of your mouth. When you try to eat, this thing moves with you, helping you grab food, helping you swallow. It's become part of you. This is the reality for thousands of fish living with Symathoa exigua, the tongue-eating louse. It's exactly what it sounds like, and it's so much worse than you're imagining. Picture a creature that looks like a miniature armadillo about the size of your thumb, with 14 legs and eyes like black beads. It's grey and segmented with a shell that makes it look almost mechanical. This is what's living in that fish's mouth, and it didn't start there. The louse begins its life as a tiny larva, floating in the ocean currents like microscopic dust. It's looking for one thing, a fish to call home. When it finds a suitable host, usually a red snapper or spotted rose snapper, it doesn't waste time. It swims directly to the fish's gills and attaches itself. But the gills are just the beginning. The louse has bigger plans. It crawls through the fish's gill chamber, navigating the delicate pink tissues like a mountaineer scaling a cliff face. Its destination is the mouth, and specifically the tongue. When it arrives, it does something that seems almost impossible to believe. The louse clamps down on the base of the fish's tongue with its powerful claws. Then it begins to feed. Not on the fish's food, but on the tongue itself. It drinks the blood flowing through the tongue's blood vessels day after day, week after week. Slowly the tongue begins to die, the blood supply is cut off, the tissue withers. The tongue, once pink and healthy, becomes pale and eventually falls away completely. The fish is left with an empty space where its tongue used to be. This is where the story takes a turn that feels like science fiction. The louse doesn't just live in the empty space, it transforms itself into a replacement tongue. It positions itself exactly where the original tongue was, attaches itself to the remaining muscles, and begins to function as if it were the fish's natural tongue. The fish opens its mouth to catch a small shrimp, and the louse helps guide the food toward the back of the throat. The fish tries to clean its gills, and the louse assists with the movement. The fish swallows, and the louse moves in perfect coordination, as if it had always been there. From the outside, you would never know. The fish appears completely normal. It feeds normally, swims normally, behaves normally. But inside its mouth lives a creature that has essentially become a living prosthetic. The louse can live this way for years, maybe even the rest of the fish's life. It simply replaces a vital organ and continues living as if nothing unusual has happened. Scientists who study these creatures describe it as one of the most successful examples of parasitism in nature. The louse gets everything it needs: shelter, food, and protection, while the fish gets a functioning tongue. It's a partnership that works perfectly, even though it began with one creature eating another's body part. This isn't some rare occurrence happening in the deepest, most remote parts of the ocean. Tongue-eating lice are common. They're found in fish markets, in restaurant kitchens, in the mouths of fish that people catch for dinner. Most of the time, no one notices. The louse looks enough like a tongue that it passes inspection. Marine biologists have found that in some populations of fish, nearly every single fish carries one of these lice. It's become so common that it's simply part of life for these fish. They're born, they grow, they eventually get visited by a louse, and they adapt. The fish don't seem to suffer or appear to be in pain. They simply continue living with their new reality, accepting that their tongue is now a creature with its own agenda. There's something almost philosophical about this arrangement. The louse doesn't hate the fish doesn't hate the louse. Evolution found a way to satisfy both needs with one grotesque solution. When you think about it, your own body is full of creatures that aren't you. Bacteria in your gut help you digest food. Microorganisms on your skin protect you from infection. In some ways, you're not that different from the fish with the louse in its mouth. You're a collection of different living things that have found a way to work together. The difference is that your bacteria don't first eat your organs and then replace them. But maybe that's just because evolution hasn't found a reason for them to do so yet. Maybe in some other world, under different circumstances, that would be perfectly normal. The tongue-eating louse reminds us that nature doesn't follow the rules we expect. It doesn't care about our sense of right and wrong, our ideas about what's normal or acceptable. It simply does what works, and sometimes what works is beautiful in its own terrible way. In the warm waters off California, fish continue to swim with their louse tongues, feeding and breathing and living their lives. And that's just life, finding a way to continue, no matter how strange the circumstances, even if it means accepting that sometimes the most intimate parts of ourselves might not be ourselves at all. You're walking through a damp forest in Europe, maybe Germany or Poland. The morning mist clings to the moss-covered trees and everything smells of earth and decay. It's peaceful here, the kind of place where fairy tales begin. Birds chirp overhead, and somewhere in the distance you can hear the gentle sound of water trickling over rocks. Then you notice something moving at your feet, a snail making its slow journey across the forest floor. But this snail is different. Its eye stalks are swollen to 3 times their normal size, and they're pulsing with colors that have no business existing in nature. Bright green bands alternate with yellow stripes, throbbing in a rhythm that seems almost hypnotic. The snail moves with purpose, climbing higher than snails normally climb. It's heading for the tips of leaves, the edges of branches, anywhere it can be seen. And those eye stalks keep pulsing, 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 like tiny neon signs advertising something you can't quite read. You lean closer, fascinated by this beautiful display, when you realize something that makes your skin crawl. Those aren't eyes anymore. Something else is in control. This is Leucochloridium paradoxum, the flatworm that turns snails into zombies. The snail you're watching isn't really a snail anymore. It's a vehicle, a puppet, a living advertisement for a creature that's been pulling its strings from the inside. And this story begins weeks earlier in a pile of bird droppings scattered across the forest floor. Inside that waste, invisible to the naked eye, are thousands of parasite eggs. They're waiting patiently, like seeds in winter, for the right conditions to begin their life cycle. The snail, going about its normal snail business, encounters these droppings and does what snails do. It eats them. The eggs slip down its throat and into its digestive system, where they hatch into larvae smaller than the period at the end of this sentence. These larvae don't stay small for long. They begin to grow, to multiply, to spread through the snail's body like a living infection. But they're not random in their growth. They have a specific destination in mind: the snail's eye stalks. The parasites migrate through the snail's tissues, navigating its body like travelers following a map. They know exactly where they're going, and they know exactly what they need to do when they get there. Evolution has given them a blueprint for one of nature's most disturbing transformations. When the parasites reach the eye stalks, they don't just live there, they reshape them completely. The thin, delicate eye stalks become thick, swollen tubes filled with hundreds of writhing parasites. The snail's actual eyes are pushed aside, rendered useless. The parasites take their place. But here's where the story becomes truly nightmarish. The parasites don't just live in the eye stalks, they perform in them. The swollen eye stalks begin to pulse with those bright green and yellow bands, moving in a rhythm that perfectly mimics a caterpillar. The movement is so convincing that it fools one of the forest's most skilled hunters: birds. To a bird flying overhead, those pulsing eye stalks look exactly like a plump, juicy caterpillar. The colors are right, the size is right, the movement is right. Every instinct tells the bird that this is food, easy prey just waiting to be snatched up. The snail, controlled by its parasitic passengers, climbs higher and higher, positioning itself in the most visible spots possible. It abandons its natural snail behavior of hiding in dark, damp places. Instead, it seeks out bright, exposed locations where birds are most likely to spot it. The snail's own survival instincts are completely overridden. It's no longer trying to avoid predators. It's actively trying to attract them. The parasites have turned its brain into their personal remote control, and they're using it to orchestrate their own reproduction. When a bird finally spots the snail and swoops down, it doesn't eat the whole snail. It just goes for what looks like the caterpillar, the swollen eye stalks. The bird bites down and the eye stalks break away from the snail's body, releasing hundreds of parasites into the bird's mouth. The snail, now missing its eye stalks, doesn't die, it simply grows new ones. And if it's unlucky enough to encounter more parasite eggs, the whole cycle begins again. The snail can be repeatedly zombified, turned into a puppet, over and over throughout its life. Inside the bird, the parasites continue their life cycle. They mature, reproduce, and eventually pass through the bird's digestive system. The bird deposits them in its droppings, scattered across the forest floor, where they wait for the next snail to come along. It's a perfect system. The parasites get transportation, reproduction, and multiple host species. The birds get what they think is food. The snails get to survive, even if they have to sacrifice their eye stalks repeatedly. The truly disturbing part is how precisely this system works. The parasites don't just randomly make the snail behave differently. They specifically override the behaviors that would keep the snail safe and replace them with behaviors that make it vulnerable to exactly the right kind of predator. Scientists who study these parasites describe them as masterful puppeteers. They've evolved to control another creature's brain with the precision of a surgeon and the artistry of a choreographer. They don't just live in the snail, they direct it like a filmmaker controlling every aspect of a movie. The snail experiences this transformation, but we don't know what it feels like from the inside. Does it know it's being controlled? Does it experience confusion or fear? Or has the parasite taken over so completely that the snail's original consciousness is simply gone? In forests across Europe and North America, this drama plays out thousands of times every day. Snails climb toward the light, their swollen eye stalks pulsing with colors that promise food to hungry birds. The birds swoop down, completing a cycle that's been running for millions of years. The zombie snail reminds us that free will might be more fragile than we think, that consciousness, identity, and choice can be overridden by something as simple as a microscopic parasite, that what we think of as self might be more negotiable than we're comfortable admitting. Your brain right now is protected by barriers that most parasites can't cross. Your skull is thick. Your blood-brain barrier is strong. You have immune systems that most snails can only dream of. But evolution is creative and it's patient, and it's always looking for new solutions to old problems. Picture the deepest part of the ocean you can imagine. Now go deeper. We're talking about a place where the sun has never shone, where the pressure would crush you instantly, where the water is so cold it should freeze but doesn't. This is the abyssal zone, and it's home to creatures that seem designed by a committee of nightmare artists. 600 meters down, maybe 1,000, something moves through the eternal darkness. It's about 12 feet long, with skin the color of old parchment and fins that look like they're melting. Its body is soft, almost gelatinous, designed to withstand pressure that would turn your bones to powder. But it's the head that makes you understand why this creature has earned its name. The goblin shark has a face that looks like it's been assembled from spare parts. Its snout extends forward like a flattened sword, covered in thousands of tiny sensors that can detect the electrical fields generated by living things. And then there's the mouth. At first glance it looks normal enough, but the goblin shark's mouth holds a secret that makes it one of the most alien creatures on our planet. The goblin shark is hunting. It's using those sensors in its snout to detect the faint electrical signature of a fish swimming nearby. The fish has no idea it's being tracked. In the absolute darkness of the deep ocean, stealth is everything, and the goblin shark is a master of invisible hunting. When the shark gets close enough, something happens that defies everything you think you know about how mouths work. The shark's jaws don't just open, they launch forward like a missile, extending out from its head on a framework of cartilage and muscle. The transformation is instantaneous. One moment the shark has a normal-looking mouth, The next, its jaws are protruding from its head like a grotesque telescope lined with needle-sharp teeth designed for one purpose: grabbing prey that thought it was safe. The fish never sees it coming. The jaws snap shut, retract back into the shark's head, and dinner is served. The entire process takes less than a second, but it's a second that reveals one of evolution's most disturbing innovations. The goblin shark's extendable jaws aren't just unusual. They're a solution to a problem that most predators never have to face. In the deep ocean, food is scarce. When you encounter prey, you get exactly one chance to catch it. Miss, and you might not eat for weeks. So evolution designed a mouth that doesn't miss, a mouth that can reach out and grab prey from distances that would be impossible for any normal predator. A mouth that turns the shark into a living, spring-loaded trap. The mechanism is actually quite elegant in a horrifying way. The shark's upper jaw is suspended from its skull by a system of ligaments and muscles that can extend like a telescope. When the shark strikes, these muscles contract violently, shooting the jaws forward while the lower jaw drops down to create a cage of teeth. The whole system is so efficient that the shark doesn't even need to swim fast. It can drift slowly through the water, conserving energy until its sensors detect prey. Then it becomes a creature of pure predation, its mouth transforming into a nightmare that reaches out to grab anything unlucky enough to be nearby. But here's what makes the goblin shark truly unsettling. It's not some newly evolved monster, it's ancient. Fossil evidence suggests that sharks with similar jaw structures were swimming in our oceans over 125 million years ago. The goblin shark is a living fossil, a creature that has remained virtually unchanged since the time of the dinosaurs. That means this alien-looking predator was perfected long before mammals even existed. While life on land was still figuring out how to survive, the goblin shark was already patrolling the deep ocean with its extendable jaws, catching prey with a mechanism so effective that evolution saw no need to improve it. The goblin shark's body tells the story of life in the deep ocean. Its skin is soft and flabby because there's no need for speed in the abyss. Its color is pale because there's no sunlight to hide from. Its eyes are small because sight is almost useless in the eternal darkness. Marine biologists who study goblin sharks describe them as living examples of specialized evolution. Every part of their anatomy is adapted for their specific environment and hunting strategy. The goblin shark's hunting method is so specialized that it only works in the deep ocean. The extendable jaws rely on the high pressure of deep water to function properly. Bring a goblin shark to the surface, and its hunting mechanism becomes less effective. It's trapped in the abyss by its own evolutionary perfection. This creates an interesting paradox. The goblin shark is simultaneously one of the most effective predators in its environment and one of the most limited. It's a creature that has traded versatility for absolute mastery of a single hunting technique. When you think about it, the goblin shark's mouth is like a biological Swiss Army knife, if Swiss Army knives were designed specifically for nightmare scenarios. It's a tool that serves one purpose perfectly, and that purpose is catching things that think they're safe. The deep ocean is full of creatures that have made similar evolutionary bargains. They've given up speed, or color, or conventional body plans in exchange for some specialized ability that makes them masters of their particular niche. The goblin shark just happens to be one of the most visually disturbing examples. In the crushing darkness of the deep ocean, goblin sharks continue their ancient hunt. They drift through the water like living nightmares, their extendable jaws ready to reach out and grab anything that crosses their path. Evolution created the goblin shark to be the perfect deep-sea predator. The fact that it also created the perfect deep-sea monster is just evolution's way of reminding us that nature doesn't distinguish between effective and terrifying. Now, imagine yourself as a caterpillar, fat, green, and focused on one thing: eating leaves. Your world is simple, predictable. Leaf after leaf disappears into your mouth. You're growing, preparing for the day you'll transform into something beautiful. Then you feel a sharp pain in your back. It's over in seconds. A wasp, no bigger than your fingernail, has landed on you and inserted something. Her ovipositor, thin as a needle, penetrates your skin and deposits eggs directly into your body cavity. You barely notice. The wasp flies away and you continue eating. But something has changed. Something is growing inside you. The eggs hatch into larvae, tiny white creatures that begin to feed. Not on your leaves, but on you. They're careful though, precise. They eat your fat reserves first, your non-essential tissues. They avoid your vital organs. They need you alive. Weeks pass. You continue eating, growing, behaving normally, but you're no longer alone in your body. The wasp larvae are growing too, getting stronger, getting hungrier, and they're about to reveal their most disturbing ability. The larvae begin to produce chemicals, substances that seep into your bloodstream and travel to your brain. These chemicals don't kill you, they reprogram you. Your behavior changes in subtle ways. You stop wandering around looking for new leaves. Instead, you position yourself on a sturdy branch and begin to spin silk. But this silk is different, stronger, more protective. You're building a nursery. For them, the wasp larvae have turned you into their personal bodyguard and construction worker. You weave silk around the branch, creating a protective barrier. Then you position yourself on top of this silk cocoon, legs spread wide, head up, ready to defend it with your life. The larvae emerge from your body, but they don't leave. They pupate inside the silk cocoon you built for them, and you remain on guard, barely moving, barely eating, using the last of your energy to protect the creatures that have been consuming you from the inside. When predators approach, you rear up and thrash your head, driving them away. You're defending your own killers with a dedication that would be admirable if it weren't so twisted. The wasp larvae complete their transformation inside their silk fortress. They emerge as adults, ready to find new caterpillars to parasitize. You remain on guard until your body finally gives out. Having spent your last days protecting the creatures that doomed you, this is Glyptopanthes, the wasp that turns caterpillars into zombie bodyguards. The chemical cocktail they inject doesn't just control behavior, it rewrites the caterpillar's entire sense of purpose. 2 miles down, where the ocean pressure could crush a submarine, something waits in the darkness. It's the size of a basketball, with teeth like glass needles and skin as black as the void around it. A bioluminescent lure dangles from its head, pulsing with cold light in a rhythm that says one thing: food. This is the female anglerfish. She's a solitary hunter, built for a world where meals are separated by months of starvation. Every part of her body is designed for one purpose: surviving in the most hostile environment on Earth. But she's not alone. Attached to her belly, fused directly into her flesh, are what look like small tumors. They're not tumors, they're males. The male anglerfish is tiny, maybe the size of your thumb. He has one job in life: find a female before he starves. The deep ocean is vast, dark, and mostly empty. The chances of encountering another anglerfish are astronomically small. When a male does find a female, he doesn't court her. He bites her hard. His teeth sink into her flesh, and then something extraordinary happens. His mouth begins to fuse with her body. His bloodstream connects to hers. His organs begin to dissolve. The male becomes a living sperm bank, attached permanently to the female's body. He has no mouth, no digestive system, no independent existence. He's become a reproductive organ with a heartbeat. One female can have multiple males attached to her body. They hang from her like grotesque ornaments, their bodies reduced to simple sperm-producing machines. When she's ready to reproduce, they provide genetic material on demand. It's one of evolution's most nightmarish love stories. Romance reduced to parasitism, partnership reduced to absorption. The Galapagos Islands seem peaceful. Volcanic rock, scattered vegetation, and hundreds of bird species living in apparent harmony. But if you watch carefully, you'll notice something disturbing. A small brown bird lands on the back of a much larger seabird. The larger bird, a booby, doesn't seem concerned. Small birds often pick parasites from their feathers. It's a common arrangement. But this small bird isn't looking for parasites. It's looking for blood. The vampire finch pecks at the base of the booby's wing feathers where the skin is thin. 1 peck, 2, 3. The booby shifts uncomfortably but doesn't fly away. Then blood begins to flow. The finch drinks deeply, its small beak perfectly adapted for this gruesome task. The booby tolerates this because it has no choice. The finch provides some grooming services, but the real relationship is more sinister. Evolution transformed these finches when their normal food sources became scarce. Instead of adapting to eat different seeds or insects, they adapted to eat blood. They became vampires with wings. The disturbing part is how normal it looks. The finch appears to be simply grooming the larger bird. The booby seems calm, almost cooperative. It's a horror story disguised as a nature documentary. These creatures exist in our world, sharing the same planet where you sleep peacefully each night. They're not supernatural, they're not mythical. They're the result of evolution's most creative problem-solving. Evolution doesn't care about our comfort, our sense of right and wrong, our ideas about what's normal. It only cares about what works, and sometimes what works is beautiful in its own terrible way. These creatures seem cursed, only because we see them through human eyes. To them, these are simply survival strategies, solutions to problems, ways of continuing life in a universe that's mostly hostile to living things. Nature is far stranger than any fiction we could imagine, and it's still full of things we haven't discovered yet. In the deepest parts of our oceans, in the most remote forests, in places where no human has ever looked, there are creatures that would make these 6 seem ordinary. If these horrors exist here, in plain sight, what might still be waiting in the dark? These creatures are out there right now, living their impossible lives, solving problems in ways that defy everything we think we know about how life should work. They're a reminder that this planet is far stranger, far more creative, and far more wonderful than we give it credit for. So sleep well tonight, and remember, the real monsters don't hide under your bed. They're too busy being brilliant.